Welcome back, everybody, to another great edition of Sports Étouffée. This is a Saints Forward show today. That's why I brought on a special guest for you guys today. You won't want to miss it because we got John Sigler of the Saints Wire. Before we get into that, let's hear the theme music. John Sigler from the Saints Wire. John, thank you for joining me today. I know you're such a busy guy.
Oh man, thanks for having me again on the show. It's had fun last time. Looking forward to chatting with you again.
All right, so Saints Giants just happened, or just Sunday, or whenever you're watching this, whenever. Talk about your feelings about that game, and did you expect the Saints to have that dominant of a performance?
Nah, man, they proved me wrong here. This was a game I picked it as a loss in our network picks last week. I was really anxious to see how the Saints would handle Wink Martindale's defense. He's so blitz heavy. They did a great job picking that up. Derek Carr played a good game navigating that pressure. Um, and then Tommy DeVito, I looked at it, I was like, oh man, this cat's going to run on us for like 70 yards or something. Like, this is going to be bad. And they did a great job corralling him and kind of limiting what he was able to do. So the Saints, they did not play down to their competition. I felt like this is what Dennis Allen wants it to look like every week, where he wants his defense to stop the run, get after the quarterback, and then have Derek Carr, play efficient football, spread the ball around, score touchdowns at the end of drives, which we all know that's been a problem this year, and come out with the dub. And that's kind of what we saw happen here. So look, good on them. Look, I've been skeptical about the Saints throughout this whole run about when they signed Derek Carr, when they promoted Da, and I've had a lot of concerns, and they did a good they did well to kind of prove me wrong this time. And that's fine, because whenever I'm wrong, that means that they're winning football games, and it's a much more entertaining product. So I'll take that every Sunday.
You touched on Derek Carr a bit. I mean, and we both follow each other on Twitter and social media, and we see each other's tweets. And you and I have been very critical of Derek Carr these past few weeks. And I mean, I can admit I was a Derek Carr believer, and I've even hopped off the train, so to speak. But these last two games, I know they was against bad teams like the Panthers and the Giants, but do you think he can keep up this consistently? Because this seemed like this was his best game as a Saint.
Oh yeah, dude. Someone put up the stat earlier. This was his highest passer rating in a game since 2015. Like, this is the best game he has played in years, much less as a Saint. So I would like to think that they found some things that are sustainable, that they're going to be able to repeat here on Thursday night against the Rams, and kind of keep it going, and have him playing like the quarterback who the Saints told us they believed he could be. I would love to see that happen, but it's just one game. The Giants are not ranked very highly in pass defense, run defense, all these things. Um, and we've seen them, have these blowout wins before, and then fall back to earth the next week. I mean, I think about the Colts game earlier this season, where that was Da's first like signature win, where they were down 11 points, they rallied back and took over in the second half, and won that football game. And then what happened? They lost what three in a row after that, with or after the Bears game the next week, I think it was. But anyway, we haven't seen that consistency. We need to see it. I'll be a believer when that happens. But for now, I've got no problem just saying, hey, congrats, DC, on the good game. Da, take your victory lap about it. But we need to see it again here on Thursday night.
Definitely, consistency has to be key because I mean the Saints team has been up and down all year, and you've seen me mention it on Twitter that this team looks much like the 1998 Mike Ditka coach Saints, which isn't a compliment, by the way, for those watching. You do you think this team wins out? Because I mean, we have a short turnaround this Thursday coming up against the Los Angeles Rams, and somebody posted a stat saying that the Saints have not won against the Rams in Los Angeles since 1994, and they also haven't won on Thursday night since 2019.
Whew.
What is your thoughts on the game Thursday, the matchup against the Rams?
Man, it's going to be tough. The Rams are a good team. They've been doing everything that they're supposed to stay alive in this wild card race. Like they've been winning the games they're supposed to. They've been putting up points. They're averaging something like 36 points per game over the last 3 or 4 weeks. They're really firing on all cylinders. It's going to be very challenging here on a short week for the Saints. I mean, it's not just a short week. They got to fly across country too. So there's a lot of challenges here. It's going to be tough. You know, I don't know that they're going to win out. To me, that this looks like the toughest game ahead of them, but that's not downplaying what comes after, because Da has not shown us he can beat the Bucks and he can beat the Falcons this year. I mean, both of those teams beat the Saints earlier this season. The Bucks won 26-9, and probably Derek Carr's worst game of the season. I mean, it's going to be really tough, and I don't want to say they have to win out. I think 2-1 gets you into the playoffs. But I mean, they're at a point now where we can't say, well, we can't be content dropping a loss to the Rams. Like every game, all 3 of these games are must-win games. So we'll see if they have it in them to go the distance.
Do you think? I mean, you've said must-win games these next 3, which I agree, in order to make it to the playoffs. But do you think if they drop this game against the Rams, that it makes it that much tougher to actually get into the playoffs or even compete to get into the playoffs divisional wise?
Yeah, so I was looking at the playoff odds earlier. This Rams game it's huge, because if the Saints win, then that opens up not just the NFC South title, but that gives them a big tiebreaker for that 7th playoff seed, that last wild card spot. So all of a sudden they got a 2-way go, where hey, maybe we can afford to drop a loss in Tampa Bay, or heaven forbid, let the Falcons win in Week 18. But that gives them some much needed breathing room if they can pull off a win. It's not the end of the world if they lose, but that, to me, that would give me a lot of confidence that this team can get where they want to go if they can win, because this is the kind of opponent that they would be facing if they get to the playoffs. Like if the Saints do end up winning the division, it's going to be a team like the Rams, like the Cowboys, or the Eagles, who's going to be coming to town in that wild card round. So we're going to learn a lot about the Saints on Thursday night, whether these last 2 wins are a mirage, or whether they've actually found something and now they're cooking.
Well, so we've seen the defense against the Panthers and the Giants. I mean, they had Tommy DeVito on the ground most of the game. I want to say it was 6 sacks during the Giants game. 7? Jeez.
Yeah.
Do you think the defense has finally turned it around, considering that we all thought Saquon Barkley was going to kind of run all over this defense? Because lately, the Russian defense has been bottom 5 of the league, I believe.
Yeah.
And were you surprised that they kind of held Saquon in check?
I was, man, but I mean, you look at how this team is built. They've got so many, proud veterans on this team, guys who have done it before. Demario Davis played probably his best game of the year, and he was, I hate to single out one guy like this, but he was mostly responsible for tracking Saquon and stopping him at the line at scrimmage. And he did just a fantastic job of that. So major props to him. But, I do think something we should consider is the state of the Giants O-line. Like they're on track to, I believe, break the record for the most sacks allowed in a single season. They were really missing Evan Neal, the right tackle, this week. So that was that. I'm not sure that's a great barometer to use. But look, a win is a win. The sacks, the plays happen. The Saints got those sacks, and I don't think it hurts anything if they're encouraged by that. Like they have done some things interesting, some new interesting things lately. Like probably their best pass rush package we saw yesterday had Tono Passignon lining up at defensive tackle, had Zach Bond at defensive end, and that just they look so much more athletic up front than we've seen them all year with Cam Jordan and Nathan Shepard in those roles. So maybe they have found some things. Maybe they're getting that pass rush package figured out. But if they can build some momentum there and return to playing at a level that they're accustomed to, meeting those standards they set for themselves, then I'm all for it.
Do you think DA? Why did it take DA so long to put Zach Bond at his natural pass rushing position? That's my question to you because I mean I remember going to camp and I'm seeing him play like kind of like the Mike role and dropping back in zone coverage, and I'm like, why is he dropping back in coverage? Because he definitely did not do that at Wisconsin at all. But it's taken how many games this year for DA to put him at his natural pass rushing position? Kind of touch on that.
Man, it's taken years for this to happen. Like Zach Bond, he's in his 4th year in the league, and he's finally being allowed to line up, move up to the line and get after the quarterback. And that's what he did so well at Wisconsin. I remember when the Saints drafted him, they put Michael Hodges on the phone for his presser. They're on the day 2 of the draft, 2020, and he was talking about how, man, we've got a really special vision for this guy. How we think he can play all 3 linebacker spots. He can be a great coverage player for us. It's going to take some time training him up to do these things, but we're really confident he can do it. And he just never did it. And they ended up drafting a linebacker in each of the next 3 classes in a row. I think we had Pete Werner in the 2nd round the next year. We had DeMarco Jackson the next. Nephi Sewell was a priority free agent for them. He's turned into a nice player. So that vision really didn't work out the way the Saints thought it would. And I think what they've finally gotten so desperate for pass rush. Maybe DA is just throwing his hands up and saying, all right, let Zach Ball go do it. I don't know. I know there's like a conspiracy theory floating around some parts of Saints Twitter right now saying, maybe Cam Jordan is the one who came to DA and was like, man, let him do it. I've got a bum ankle. We're not getting after him. Let's make a change. I don't know that happened. I buy into it a little bit. I can totally see that. But it's disappointing it took this long. I mean, I can totally see Zach Bond just continue to tear it up these last few weeks, generate some pressure, maybe get a couple more sacks, and then he's going to leave in free agency, and the new team's going to let him do that full time, and he's going to be great. I mean, it's Rodney Ninkovich, Trey Hendrickson all over again.
Oh yeah. So touching on schematical errors and taking so long to fix it. Now, there's a rumor floating around Saints Twitter. I have not heard if this is true or not, but we all seen Ronald Curry having a play call sheet. Now, it's not far-fetched for the quarterback's coach to have a play call sheet, but do you think that it might be true that Ronald Curry was the one calling the plays during the Giants game?
Nah, man, that's already been debunked. Somebody asked Nick Underhill about that last night. He had the live show with New Orleans Football, and he said no, that wasn't the case. Like RC, he has a play sheet every week. He's on the headset. I mean, he's one of the first people that Derek Carr talks to when he comes back to the sideline every play. So that's nothing unusual. I do think it says a lot about Pete that the play calling has turned around over the last 3 weeks, over the last 3 games, ever since the bye week, or since that debacle in Atlanta, really. We're seeing better execution in the red zone. We're seeing some more creativity. I mean, he's doing a much better job utilizing play action, pre-snap motion, putting his guys in position, and the analytics crowd talks about play action and pre-snap motion and all these things as an easy button. That you smash the easy button and your success rate goes up just by adding something else for the defense to have to think about. And for so long, Pete has been running the Sean Payton playbook without Sean Payton and without the quarterback it was designed for in Drew Brees, and it's been struggling because of that. And when Payton built that playbook over the last 15 years, the play action, the motion, these things they were window dressing. Like they're accessories. They're not something that you're going to use on like 40% of your plays the way that Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins do, for example. That's just not how they. It's part of what they do. It's not the main part. And Pete is starting to come around there and saying, hey, we have a quarterback who is great off of play action, who for the first 8 years of his career was very effective on play action. Let's use that on 30, 33, 36% of our pass attempts and get it going. And we're seeing some really positive results there.
You talked about the red zone woes early on, but another schematical error that people are wanting to know, why did it take so long for Pete to use Jimmy Graham, who is 6'7" and has been known as a red zone touchdown monster for so many years, especially in the Orleans? Why did it take so long, John?
Man, that is a question that I and a lot of people covering this team would love to have an answer to. Getting someone to fess up and explain that has been challenging. But all I can think of is that the Saints thought the younger guys were the way to go, with Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau being their tight ends that they're going to play, and that's who they want to prioritize. Even in the red zone. And to an extent, I get that. I mean, Juwan Johnson had 7 TDs last year. Like, you would think that's somebody who's going to come down when you throw with a pass when you throw it to him. Same thing with Foster Moreau. Like, he's somebody who, was playing so well with Carr for years on the Raiders. I totally understand going to him, in a clutch moment at the end of the Jaguars game, and it's just unfortunate that he dropped the pass. I think that's what it took, was those guys maybe not meeting expectations, not playing well enough for the Saints to kind of be like, all right, fine, let's try something else. Let's actually activate Jimmy this week and give him a shot. And he's caught 6 passes and scored 4 touchdowns and converted 2 first downs. I mean, all he does is move the chains or score points, and it's hilarious. But at the same time, I agree with you. It's like, man, what took so long? What is going on? When you're the worst red zone offense in the league outside the Jets for 2 months, and then you put Jimmy back in the game, and all of a sudden you've come away with points on 9 out of your last 10 red zone drives. Like, I don't know. I wish I had a better answer for that. So does everybody else covering the team. Again, it's one of those things where nobody really wants to fess up and offer a clear explanation.
It's very, very puzzling. I'll say that, John. But touching on Derek Carr, now we've seen him struggle throughout the year, and he's kind of picked it up these last 2 games. I mean, not last. This was his best game. He struggled tremendously against the Panthers, but a lot of people would be mad if I didn't ask this question. As much as I tweet about it, prophecy, this and that. Do you think the Saints will or even should draft a quarterback in the first round of this upcoming 2024 NFL draft?
So I would. I know that's what I would do. If there's a highly rated passer available when they're on the clock, yeah, I'm pulling that trigger. Like, draft a quarterback every year until you have one. Like that I really believe in that philosophy. And if that's in the first round, then so be it. Who that's going to be, I don't know. I know that there's a ton of support for Jaden Daniels right now. I know that that's your guy. And there's a lot of Saints fans, a lot of LSU fans who are thinking the same way. I totally get that. He was the most exciting player in college football this year. Won the Heisman. I think he would add I'm a fan too. I think he would add a lot to the offense. I mean, he's like a supercharged version of Hendon Hooker, who I loved last year. He's got the big arm. He can make plays with his legs, and that's something that's really valuable in today's NFL, where so long as you can, make a play outside the pocket, your chances of survival just go up dramatically. I mean, just look at guys. Look at Daniel Jones. Like, for years, he was struggling as a passer, but at least he could run. Like, that was something. He had that mobility, and we've seen that with Tommy DeVito too, where hey, at least he can take off and scramble a bit and make a play. And I think with Jaden Daniels, I wouldn't ask him to be like a run first quarterback or anything dumb like that. But because he has that, that's going to raise his floor a lot, and that's going to give him a chance to play and a chance to make plays where other quarterbacks who maybe aren't as athletic, who don't have that that dynamic element, they're going to struggle a bit. So he's somebody high on my radar. There's other QBs in the draft. I haven't scouted them all evaluated them as heavily as I will here in a few months. But yeah, with Carr, with his contract structure, it's really a 2-year deal. So if the Saints have the opportunity to get a QB in the draft and then hand him the keys at the end of the next season, move on from Carr, I think that would be a good way to go. But we got plenty of time to figure that out.
So hypothetically, I know we have 3 games to go. Depending on how this season turns out, do you think we can see the Saints maybe reenact what the Kansas City Chiefs did to the Saints in 2017 and just trade up and jump over another team to draft someone, say, like Jaden Daniels? Because we know, I think everyone knows that Drake May and Caleb Williams are going 1, 2. Then after that, Jaden Daniels is probably QB3. Do you hypothetically, can you see them do the Chiefs move and trading up for someone like Jaden Daniels if, like, say, they went out and they pick, like, 16th or 17th or something to that effect?
Oh man, yeah, you can't ever rule out Mickey Loomis on draft day. I think we've learned that. It would shock me if the Saints made as big a trade as the Chiefs did. People forget, man. Like the Chiefs traded up from 30 to 10 to go up and get Mahomes. Like that was unprecedented. I totally understand why Sean Payton got caught with his pants down there. There was no way that you could have predicted that. But yeah, I mean, there's already rumors going around now that if the Saints don't have a top 10 pick, then they're a team to watch out who could move up. Who was it? It was somebody with ESPN. I think it was either Dan Graziano or Jeremy Fowler. They were doing like a preview of the top 10 picks, and then they were discussing like, hey, who are the teams that can move up? And one of them said, hey, watch out for the Saints. Mickey Loomis is aggressive. If he doesn't have a top 10 pick, he might make a move and go get one. Like that's really how he operates, and that he's gotten burned for that at times. With Trevor Penning, Stephon Anthony, we've seen these first round picks not work out for the Saints. But at the same time, they've had big hits. I don't think anybody has any real complaints about Chris Olave right now. So yeah, I could totally see it happening. But I think it would have to be like a perfect storm situation. Like it would have to be a quarterback that they believe in, top to bottom, organizationally. It would have to be, not too pricey, just because the Saints don't have a lot of draft capital right now. I mean, Loomis has already traded away their 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round picks in this year's draft. So he doesn't have a lot of resources to go up and make a move. But if it's the right situation, if it's the right player, yeah, I can absolutely see that happening.
Last question before I let you go. Do you think if the Saints miss the playoffs for a consecutive season under Coach Dennis Allen, that they could potentially fire him and his staff? Or do you potentially just see changes in general after this season?
Man, look, if the Saints don't make the playoffs, I don't care what the record is. If they can't make the playoffs in a weak NFC South and a weak NFC, they got to make changes. That's how I believe. That's my stance on it. But that's what I would do. I'm not confident that the Saints would take that step. I'm just not confident that they are. Oh, man, I'm trying to think of how to put this politely. I'm not confident that they've got an appetite for change that big, like for that big of a move. Because if we look at how all of this has played out, everything has been like the safe move. Like, we're going to promote DA from within because we feel like that's the safe move to keep this team together and stay competitive. We're going to keep Pete Carmichael because that's the safe move. That's exactly what DA said about the OC issue this offseason was, oh man, there were so many other teams in the market for offensive coordinators, and we just really felt happy with who we had, and we're going to stick with them. And that really seems to be how this organization thinks from the top down. Well, whether that's Loomis, the team president, Dennis Lauscha, team owner, Gail Benson. Like, I think all of these people are complacent, and they're going to make, and I can already see them making excuses. Maybe that's me being a pessimist, but I can already seeing them being like, oh man, we haven't had Marshawn Lattimore for most of the 2 years. Michael Thomas hasn't been right. We had all these injuries, and it just didn't work out in the end. And I'm like, God, that's just not. It's not what I would do. It's not how I would approach it. But I can already see it happening. Look, I was wrong about the Giants game. Maybe I'm wrong about this too. We'll just have to wait and see.
Well, John, that is all I have for you today. I actually appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to hop on Sports Étouffée with me and discuss the Saints. This was very fun, man.
Of course. Thanks again for having me on the show, man. Anytime.
Well, you can find John Sigler on Twitter. If you don't find him on Twitter, then you can find him over there at the Saints Wire. Great content over there. They're always producing great content. Or the USA Today Network. Go follow John. Great content. I want to thank my guest, John Sigler from the Saints Wire, for joining me on Sports Étouffée today. You guys be sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel, this show, and just share this podcast, this show, everywhere on social media that you can. I'm Logan Graffia. This has been another great edition of Sports Étouffée. I shall see you guys next time.